Tile drainage is a tactic many farmers use to help them manage water and achieve maximum productivity. A large-scale research and demonstration project at Farmamerica near Waseca involves the installation of a controlled drainage system on nearly 120 acres of farmland.
And essentially what we're trying to do is gather more information for farmers, landowners who have an interest in tile drainage, make sure that we're showing the modern principles of how drain tile is installed, which is much different than in the old days. And also then collecting data so that farmers can make better decisions, whether it's about how they manage water, how they manage nutrients, how they manage soil, the type of tillage they do, and it just helps support farmers in their management.
Conservation drainage has become a lot more prevalent in Minnesota. Minnesota has got a lot of agricultural lands that are drained by drain tile. And the old way of doing that was put the drain tile in the ground and let it run out to an outlet, and that outlet go to surface waters, lakes, rivers, and streams. We've decided that there's potentially a better way to handle some of that water, and that's where the term conservation drainage comes from. What are we going to do to treat the water? How can we make agriculture sustainable yet protect our water resources?
The project has been years in the making and involves numerous partners, including the Minnesota Agricultural Water Resource Center, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, Prinsco, Ellingson Companies, Farmamerica, and more.
Prinsco has always been involved in supporting research and what's going on with regulatory issues and what's the best thing to do on the farm as far as managing your water.
For us, it gives us an opportunity to talk about the impact that tile can have economically to soils and farms like this. So it's we look forward to telling that story here.
The site offers an opportunity to gather data on a field-scale project to learn more about how controlled drainage can impact water flow and quality while demonstrating what's possible.
Prinsco, as a pipe manufacturer, we manufacture water management solutions, and it's sometimes challenging to find projects where you can do research and development just because, like I said earlier, not everybody wants you to play in their field, right, and practice. So this is a great opportunity to participate, with our peers, with the other groups like this, and get something meaningful done.
I think it's going to be extremely valuable. I think farmers out here, really will gravitate towards, a research project of this size because, they can come out and say, well, geez, they had, whatever 40 acres or 50 acres of corn here or soybeans or whatever they were growing, and, here were the results from applying this practice. And I think they're going to feel, very, very secure that, these numbers are accurate.
I think it's really important to recognize that this isn't a small project. It's really quite large, a lot of partners, and they're very diverse. Having Farmamerica as the landowner here and their willingness to add this piece to their story about the evolution and how agriculture continually strives to be better, having them involved so that we can collect this information with them and we can host field days here to get crowds of people who are interested in the topic to come and actually share the data, look at firsthand at what's going on in the field. There's no substitute for in-field learning. And you can share a lot of information in a classroom or in a wintertime conference at a convention center somewhere. But being out in the field and seeing what's happening is really important.
Control structures have been installed to help adjust the water table in the field. Monitoring equipment will also be implemented to help Minnesota Department of Agriculture staff and Discovery Farms monitor water flow and water quality for years to come. The Farmamerica Tile project has taken 8 years to get from concept to reality. The project went through a rigorous approval and design process.
And so the landowner has had to work with the local NRCS and a drainage authority to get approval for all the things that are happening here. Then beyond that, you've got engineering and surveying to make sure that these tiles and the laterals that run under this field are laid out properly and in really the most efficient way.
The Farmamerica site is divided into several zones. Control structures will allow farm operators to adjust the water table to potentially lower water levels when they need to get into the fields for planting, or to hold water back so it's available in the soil when crops need it.
Drainage research has been done on a much smaller scale, and to get on a field where you can, you're wide open, you can start over and create what you want to create is really an important step. We're starting to see that research be more on a field scale, and that's really exceptionally valuable to researchers and for us to figure out what's going on with the economics and the production and also the water quality.
Farmers don't want to remove any more water than they have to. We only want to remove enough to grow a crop successfully. And the new systems that are out there using GPS satellite technology, we can install it quicker, more accurate.
The process of designing any tile project has changed through the use of technology and intricate mapping. Projects are engineered to be as efficient and effective as possible.
The contractors involved have equipment now where they can survey entire farms right in a day. Right, they can do a lot of work actually from information that's public information on topography. So there's tools out there today to make these projects more feasible. Right, they can get things done faster, more efficiently, which is another reason why I think controlled drainage, because it does take more design work. Probably has a lot of legs in the future.
Tile drainage is often vilified for rapidly moving water and nutrients off the land. In reality, modern tile drainage systems are designed to slowly meter out excess water, allowing the soil to hold as much moisture as possible. This actually makes conservation practices like strip tilling or no-till farming and cover crops more feasible.
They work hand in hand with each other. We create a sponge in the soil profile to absorb excess moisture. The only moisture that does get removed from the soil profile is water that does not adhere to the soil particles. So we do have, it is a conservation and agriculture thing, and very, very productive for agriculture and good for everybody.
I think the potential benefit of controlled drainage is where we have more control of what water is moving off that field through tile. So there'd be certain times through the year where we can shut off that tile drainage and try to hold some of that water back, and in turn, reduce the amount of water leaving the field, but also reduce the amount of nutrients that are contained in the water that is leaving that field.
And my experience as a farm management instructor, as an ag teacher, and even as a farmer, when I see water ponding in a field in June from poor internal drainage, I get really nervous, because that nitrogen will nitrify up in the atmosphere, or it's going to be associated with that and go down through the drainage. And then when we see all the rain events that carry the phosphorus out, with soil particles, and having good internal drainage to control those things, to me that is better conservation, holding the phosphorus in place and keeping the nitrogen where it belongs in the soil profile to be used later.
Tile installation is a major investment for landowners. For any farmer to consider installing systems like the controlled system going in at Farmamerica, it has to make conservation and economic sense.
Typically, in 5 to 7 years, a drainage system is paid back in full from when it's installed. And your biggest payback, of course, the number one thing, of course, is yield. That will show up quickest. But also intrinsically, you're going to see a reduced cost in fertilizer and crop protection product use, because your soil is releasing nutrients available to the crops better, so that they can utilize with less. And that's just that's less product we're putting on and potentially less issues of contamination going into the water systems.
Because the controlled drainage systems involve more engineering and equipment than standard subsurface drainage, the Farmamerica project will analyze economics as well as water quality.
I think that's what we're going to figure out is not only the water quality benefit of these controlled drainage systems compared to conventional drainage systems, but the potential economic impact. With these newer controlled drainage systems, are we going to be able to hold water back during certain parts of the year where we could potentially, the crop that's growing in those areas could use that water that we're holding back, where in conventional drainage systems you wouldn't have that opportunity. So that's those are the things that we're testing with these plots at this project.
One of the focal points for the Farmamerica Tile Drainage Research Project is to learn more about how much water actually leaves the landscape. When water flows through the tile, monitoring equipment will automatically take quality samples and measure the flow.
This tile drainage project will help us better measure and understand exactly how much water leaves the landscape. We can make comparisons between managed or controlled drainage, where we seasonally change the water table, and what is traditionally described as free-flowing or conventional drainage, where those systems can function anytime there's excess water in the soil profile. But also it'll help us understand better, typically in Minnesota, how many days do tiles not flow. That's really important.
We're looking to see, first of all, what kind of particularly nitrate and nitrogen load is coming from the tile drainage, and then looking at how we can manage that with the controlled drainage to reduce the amount of nitrogen load and the amount of flow. This particular field drains to the Le Sueur River watershed, which is actually one of the highest nitrogen loading streams in Minnesota. So the concerns with tile drainage typically are the quantity of flow and nitrogen. And with controlled drainage, you're kind of addressing both of those issues. If you can reduce the amount of water or drainage from the farm field, you're also going to reduce that nitrogen load.
Now, the real world data is what really interests NRCS currently, and that would be from the standpoint of, is there data out there? Yeah, there's a lot of data out there, but there's not a whole lot of data out there in our environment. It's very important to us to gather regional data, and I think this is a fantastic opportunity to have that happen.
We'd like to learn more about how drainage can be a support for emerging soil health practices like cover crops. Farmers often report that they can get in their field in a more timely manner and get cover crops planted, and they get established better. And so going forward, if we can collect more information over a number of years, that would be really important. And so we hope that we can capitalize on this significant investment over, maybe the next 10, 15 years.